We're off to watch the film now, yeah, the first screening on a big screen. It's going to be very exciting. So, let's go and watch the film.
Okay.
This is how films really should be seen. But of course, in the modern day and age, we're looking at films in so many different ways. But for me, having grown up with cinema, grown up with filmmaking actually on celluloid, for me, this is the real test, watching a film on a big, beautiful screen like this, you know. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all works out. You know, these shots here, then, were shot with a camera just like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I have to say the quality is very good.
Wow! It's amazing how, you know, from that
35 mil
to that.
Seeing the test screening yesterday, this is very much your personal vision of how cinema can be. How do you think people are going to engage with that when they actually see it?
I'm worried about it on the one hand, but also on the other hand, I'm thinking, I myself have never seen a film like this before. and for me, what's exciting about it, you know, we watched it there, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, did I write this? Did I direct this? This is not my film. You know, this film already existed in some way or other. You know, we worked hard, of course, to realize it, and so on and so forth. But it could have been no other way.
There's also an aspect that I was thinking about. You know, I work researching water as a theme, as a topic, and there's a lot of issues around water, environmental, social, political, and so on, that if dialogue had been in the film, there would have been this temptation to either be a bit preachy or to be trying to put across a particular political position or message. It doesn't kind of tramline you into thinking, okay, they're making some big point about environmental pollution or about, you know, overuse of water in, you know, domestic situations. It doesn't have that kind of statement to make.
One important thing about the way that I've tried to approach this film is exactly that, not to think about projecting to somebody, but thinking about creating a space into which people can come and they can bring themselves. So it's about constructing a narrative differently. To me, it strikes me as so different to what people are used to seeing, that, you know, either people are going to think, oh, this is a load of crap, or maybe, just maybe, people will feel, this, you know, I'm engaging with the film in a different way than I'm used to here, and it works. I hope so. I'm relying less on words. I feel that I'm beginning to master the language of film, if you know what I mean, as opposed to drama.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for me, it's opening up things about the cinematic form that perhaps, you know, perhaps I was too scared to try or to think about in the past. You know, the pressure is always on to create things that have these, you know, classic ingredients, classic narrative ingredients, and drama and conflict and so on.
Do you think there's anything to do with the technology, that it's become, you know, cheaper, smaller, easier to sort of make, you know, good quality, full high definition films with handheld equipment and not needing the huge crew to do it and so on? Has that been a factor in, you know, it looks to me as if you've made a lot more films in the last few years than before, because you'd have to work on film stock and there's not all the kind of, you know, drawbacks of that. Has that made a big difference? Has that changed the way you make films?
Absolutely. I mean, the great thing about filmmaking now is that I don't have to go and ask anybody for permission to make a film. I can make a good film with no money.
Mm-hmm.
And this is making a huge difference, I think, to film generally, but to me in particular. You know, I grew up with cinema, you know, we grew up with celluloid, the laboratories, and it was very difficult to make a film without going to effectively sell it first.
Yeah.
And that means that it's the gatekeepers who, in a sense, decide ultimately what the style is and what the approach is and what, what's fashionable at any particular moment in time. Here, you saw the test screening yesterday. This film was made on what I would call a micro budget, and I mean micro.
Yeah.
And you saw that film projected on a big cinema screen, and you can't tell the difference in terms of technical quality between, a 35mm film and this film. This is a huge step, I think, to be able to make a film of that kind of quality for next to nothing, and now think about distributing it to the world. And we can now take chances that, we couldn't do a few years ago. And for me, that's been very liberating. And I think the consequence is for the industry is that there are going to be voices like my own that will come in with some new ideas. Whether they're adopted or not is a different matter. When you're writing a script, for example, that you know that you're not going to have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you also know that you have the technology to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So it's about, how can you take those limitations and make a virtue out of them.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways for me, the Silent Accomplice is an important step in this idea of making what is quite a kind of, on one level, an epic film, but on a microscopic level,
Well, one of the things I was mentioning yesterday after the test screening was how nice it was, how much I hope the people who are in the film are going to enjoy the way that they're represented on the screen, because it is very natural.
I think people have this misconception that acting on the screen has a relationship to acting on stage. Mm-hmm. I think the two are completely unrelated. Film is not about acting at all. It's about being. Mm-hmm. And the camera and the sounds and the juxtaposition of all the elements in the cinematic sphere, so to speak, the rhythm, the color, the textures, the sound, the music, the face, the eyes, all of these go to tell the story, and performance is not an issue. And therefore, a lot of people, I think, when they're directing film, are thinking about directing actors. Mm-hmm. That to me is not filmmaking. That is filmed drama, mm-hmm. which is what most films are.
Do you want to say a bit about why the sound is the way it is in the film?
I think, music to me is the mother of all the arts. It's the most powerful form of expression I think we've got. It goes straight to the heart. Mm-hmm. And I feel that often people use music, to cover for lazy filmmaking.
Right.
And that, you can slap a bit of music on a film and it can completely take over somebody's emotions and take them somewhere.
Yeah.
And of course, you remember with my approach to the film, it is about inviting people in. It's not about directing their emotions, which I think music does, mm-hmm. because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting to actually be able, right from the concept of the film, to think about how sound and picture are going to work together, mm-hmm. in a musical way.
Yeah.
And how that musicality, that interaction, is the main way in which the story is being told. I think, feelings like awe, feelings like longing, feelings like love, that kind of selfless love, need stories to be told in a different way to engage those parts of people. And we're simply not used to it, we're as a culture here in Britain. And so I hope that the Silent Accomplice, I hope people will be able to respond to it